Welcome to Ordinary to Badass, episode number 326. In this episode, you're going to hear from Hilary DeCesare, and she is going to share all about what to do in business when you want to do a relaunch. So we're going to talk about that and then personal growth and creating your own badass journal. If you don't have one of those, you need one. So stay tuned to hear why. And then you're also going to hear an incredible story about her experience with Diana Ross. If you've ever wanted to manifest, listen to this because it's for you. It's a good one. So we get into all that good stuff. So stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this. Before we get there, let's talk a little bit. So recently I went to an event in Austin, Texas, and it was awesome. And I love events. I love things that bring your spirits up or renew your energy, that kind of thing. Totally into it. But here's the thing. You're the expert of your own life. I feel like so often we go to these things looking for answers, when it's not just an event, right? It's different things maybe at your work. They offer different courses or different teachings that you can learn from. But we go there looking for somebody to tell us all the answers when you already know the answers from within. Now, I'm not discouraging you to learn because I'm a lifelong learner. I love learning. And so it's important. But what's more important is that you're listening to your voice. You're listening to your inner knowing. The things that just within you without a shadow of doubt, you listen to those things or make space so you can hear it. Like when your inner knowing or your inner being is talking to you, make space so that you can hear it. And I guess I just bring that up because I think it's so easy to get drowned out in all the noise, get drowned out with everybody around us and listen to what everybody around us is saying and forget what we actually think, what we actually believe. We forget to take that into account. We're like, what do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? Well, is that actually helping us? Oftentimes we ask a question even though we already know in our gut what we should do. So I just want to encourage you, embrace your inner badass, listen to her, right? When she's talking to you, listen to her. You know what you want. You know what you deserve. Sometimes it's just a matter of uncovering it and sticking with it, right? So embrace your badass, stick with those little gut intuitions, nudges that you get, and listen to that instead of listening to everybody around you. So remember, you're a badass. Now, let's get to the episode.
Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I am so glad you're here. Today's guest is Hilary DeCesare. Hilary, thank you so much for being here. Excited to have you on the show.
Marie, I am beyond excited. As I've just told you before we hit the record button, this is going to be off the charts.
Agreed. So before we go any further, I've got to ask you, do you consider yourself ordinary or badass?
Ooh, so badass. And at the end, I hope everyone's like, that is just a badass dame right there.
I love it. I love when people just own their badassery. So
I like that badassery. That's a good one too.
So have you always felt like a badass?
Now that's a loaded question. The answer would be no. I started my company, the ReLaunch Co, because of all the relaunches where I was far from badass. And relaunch to me is, all those transitions that we go through. And we have 3 different types of relaunches that we talk about. We talk about global relaunches, the pandemic, wars, crisis, natural disasters. And then we have business relaunches where you're trying to relaunch into a different direction. You're trying to scale your business from a certain level, and there's always gates. You're trying to figure out your career. Is this really right for you? Is this, truly aligned with purpose and passion? And then you've got your individual, personal relaunches. And I think that question really ties into the concept that I came up with. I've been coaching and running businesses for over 23 years, and came out of the Silicon Valley, where I was in a high-tech world for 10 years at the big bad Oracle. And I think that when I think about personal relaunches and I look at how a relaunch can hit you today, relaunch can hit you tomorrow, the next day, but I know it will hit you. And when I added them all up, I have had probably about significant relaunches, about 23. When I talk significant, and by the way, everyone's like, relaunches, these are positives. Yeah, they're positive relaunches too, and the negative ones, right? So the positive ones could be, you got married, you got accepted into a program, a school, you ended up, getting something in your life that you were so excited about. Great relaunches. Then there are the negative ones where, such as, I had melanoma, lost my grandparents in a terrible car crash, had a business board member actually take down my company, and he ended up doing a Ponzi scheme, went to federal prison. I mean, bad stuff. And then right when I was writing a book about my mom who passed with colon cancer, and 2 days before I was launching my book, my dad died. And it's just like, these are relaunches. These are things that set you in a new direction. They catapult you forward. And when you think about the personal relaunch, so many times you can't get to that place of, and I'm sure you've heard the people that shout from the stages, love your life, love yourself, love your business, love your kids, love, 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 love. And it's like, I don't even love myself right now. How do I go from where I am, self-sabotage, where I am, I don't feel so great about me, to loving myself? And so I went down this path to create a very, awesome framework that is 3HQ, the head, the heart, the higher self. And I really believe that that's the future. That's the future of where we need to go. And it's the future of the successful relaunches that we'll all have.
So for you, was it one of these relaunches that made you feel like a badass, or was it after you had a series of them?
Yeah, so I would say that with every relaunch, and there were times where I'm flat on my back on a twin bed, feeling like, can I go any lower than this? And you know what? Never ask that question, because the universe will be like, oh yeah, you can go lower. It's possible. But then it's the bounce back. It's the relaunch that happens. And in those moments, all of a sudden you create the next thing. And I look at, the badass part of it. And in every one of the, the negatives, the negative relaunches that happen, there were badass moments. And it's those that I like to, when I go through my process of 3HQ, it's those that I like to highlight, because that's what builds the foundation. And when we think about how many negative thoughts we have each day, right? And I just wrote a book called ReLaunch, Spark Your Heart to Ignite Your Life. And my publisher was New Degree Press, and they're very academic based. So I'm writing this book, and I come out with 60 to 80,000 thoughts we have each day. And my editor said, oh, okay, well, where is that? Where's that written? Where can we cite that? I'm like, this is no big deal, because every one of my mentors has always said this. I've never truly gone and validated it until the book. I've had to validate every single thing I've ever said. And lo and behold, came up with, oh my gosh, neuroscience is advancing like AI at rocket speed right now. And we don't have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. We have 6,250 approximate. And out of those 6,250 thoughts, about 85% are negative. So it makes sense that when I said relaunches, we go right to the negative ones, right? But for every three, you need 3 positive thoughts to counterbalance 1 negative thought. 3. So what I like to do is those badass moments, I mean, for everyone listening out there, over, whatever you're coming into, 3-day weekend, 2-day weekend, whatever, give yourself a chance to get that badass journal out. Literally write badass journal on the front and write down and I always say, take it from the decade you're in, because sometimes that's easier than remember how badass you were when you were, in your teens, and take it generally, like literally decade by decade, right? And then I was about to say, and then start doing it from the generations, because you've got badass women and badass men that came before you, and start to put all those stories down, because that's what we have to continue to focus on as we go forward. So I love the whole badass. I'm gonna go back and scratch out my journal name and just write my badass journal.
Nice. No, but I think what you're saying is so important, because we have these things that we overcome in our life, and it's like whether they're negative, whether they're positive, but we get through it and we feel like a badass, but then we forget, like in the long run or in those down moments when we're feeling really crappy, we forget like, oh wait, I've overcome this and this and the, and
Right.
It helps us to get out of our head if we have a story to go back to, or like a journal to go back and look at and to see like, oh yeah, I have done things. I think that's really helpful.
No doubt, Marie. It's so important because we do get caught up, especially, have you ever found this to be, those listening, please think about this. You start to get hit with one relaunch. Might be small, might be like, ugh, there we go again. Might be something in your business. It might be, family situation. And then something else hits you. And then something else. And all of a sudden you're on this relaunch roller coaster. You're up, you're down, you're like, and then you're finally like, can we just stop? Like, no more. I can't handle any more. Like, stop. And the thing is that it's so important to actually like, there's a great YouTube video. And it is, oh my gosh, Bob Newhart. Do you remember Bob Newhart?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think it's called Stop. Like, stop it. Stop it. And it's the classic. And everyone has to go Google it when we're done. And what he does is he has this patient that walks in and she's like, I've got all these problems. Blah, 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 blah. And he's already told her, like, this is how much this session's going to cost, whether you stay the whole time or whether you're done in a minute. And so she's sitting there, and I'm not going to blow the whole thing, but basically that it's just like we have to just stop. We have to stop this. It's like my daughter, when she was in high school, she used to get migraines. And they always talk about with migraines, you've got to like break the cycle. That's how you stop the migraine. You got to because migraines build on each other. You get one, then another, then another. So you have to literally break the cycle. And sometimes we have to use that stop, like put that red stop sign up, put the hand up as I'm doing. I don't know if people can see us, but I'm putting my hand up and just saying stop, like enough. And I call it in the book, the pause principle. And it's this moment in time where you just kind of like are between worlds. You're between the crappy stuff. You know that there's silver linings. And I have a podcast called the ReLaunch Podcast. And it used to be called in my first season, I called it the Silver Lined Relaunch. And Marie, it's so interesting because either on camera or off camera, I would say to my guest, and these guests have been through everything. I mean, one was zipped up in a body bag. And it's like, hey, I'm not dead yet. Another, we've had like the worst things that you can imagine. I always ask, if you could go back and change what happened to you, would you? And out of, I think I'm now up to, I've recorded over 200, not one person. And trust me when I say I have had the worst, like things that you're like, what? You wouldn't like go back and say, I never want that to happen. No, because there's a learning lesson that has always occurred. There's how you are who you are today. I mean, I read your incredible profile and, as a police officer and, what it means to now move in. Would you go back and redo that? Would you go back and do something different? It's so interesting because that's who you are. You are who you are. And I love the analogies that you use because of those situations that you had. And so how do we reframe? I call it a relaunch flip. What we have viewed in the past, even my divorce, divorce with 3 little kids, nobody wants that. Nobody wants to think that that's what's going to happen to their marriage. But I was single for 7 years. 7 years later, during one of the worst relaunches of my life, I met my husband, E. And I did what I do. I did what the 3HQ, I actually incorporated this. So, ladies, if you're out here listening, men, if you happen to be listening to, understand that wherever you are, 3HQ, this process can be the silver bullet for you. It can.
Yes, I want to dig in so much further. But first, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
That little thing. So I've already said, I grew up in the Silicon Valley. It was definitely a man's world. So I had to become kind of that badass from the beginning. I was even labeled like a pit bull. That's always a nice one, right? That's what you want to be called. And from there, after 10 years, I really realized that it was not, yes, I was crushing it. I mean, 7 figures consistently, but it was so not where I was in my own, I call it the G zone, your great zone, your gratitude zone, your like the zone where your growth is happening. And I left that world and I got a very fortunate opportunity with the president of Oracle, who had left to go to a venture fund called Kleiner Perkins, one of the top VCs out there. And he called me up and said, hey, would you coach our CEOs, our entrepreneurs, and help them scale their businesses? Again, during those days, everyone, it was called consulting. Now it's called coaching. And that's where I really earned my stripes. I helped these people, men and women, kind of level up their businesses. And I got the bug. I got the bug when I was going through divorce. I'm like, I need to start my own business. It was during that time of massive cyberbullying online. So I created a company around keeping kids safe online, around, the safety aspect, and grew that. We did have an acquisition offer. And then it was during that next phase where all of a sudden, more relaunches happened, and the lessons I've learned only added more value to how I look at my coaching today, right? And leveling people up. And what happened during this time, as I've had now 4 companies, I grew into where I am now, right? And I often talk with the 3HQ, higher self. You've heard that head, heart, higher self. The higher self is really that best version of you. Well, let me tell you, anything like higher self when I was in Oracle, I would have been laughed at. I would have been like, you are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You're like so not. And now today, I'm like, who knew woo could be so good for you? Like, there's so much goodness there. It's like, stop. Remember that whole stop and embrace, because you've got at the higher self, that best version of you, you've got a wise woman inside of you. that you may be hearing a little bit, hearing this like intuitive, like, and you're like, oh, pushing it away. But my goal is to have you start listening and then impacting every area of your life because you are listening to that wise woman. That is your biggest tool. Forget about all the other like sales tools and lead generation tools and, everything that's out there. This is your most important tool. And there's a process that 3HQ is something that it's something for life. All right. You're going to use it in business. You're going to, personal, professional. But there is, and when I first came up with it, it's like, oh, but Hilary, this involves your courses. This involves like, how do I use it? Everyone wants the, like I said, the silver bullet. Everyone wants like, give it to me fast, like a spoonful of sugar, right? Makes the medicine go down. And so I came up with a tune in process because so many of us tune out when we're having relaunches, tune out to anything that's like, oh God, uncomfortable. You're feeling stuck. You're overwhelmed. You're underwhelmed. And it's a 4-step process that I would love to actually take you through if you're okay with it, Marie. Are you okay with like me kind of coaching you through this system so that everyone can literally start to use it today?
Yes. But before we get into that, I want to hit on this part you talked about listening. I think it can be so hard to just listen to what we want. And it's a society like go, go, go. You just got to hammer it out and you got to do stuff. How do you get away from like the all-in pit bull to listening more to your heart and to your intuition?
Ooh, okay. Do you ever play golf? You literally just teed up the ball for me. Like literally, I'm like, okay, so good. All right. So it is so hard to listen. And it is so much easier to tune out. And for so many people, we think about perhaps intuition. And maybe in the past, you've tried to listen and it didn't work out for you. Okay. So can I give you a very quick story?
Yeah, go for it.
And I haven't, it's so funny. I barely have shared this story. It's not in my book. But my mom, God love her, she passed about 3 years ago. And every woman in my family lived into their hundreds, every single one. So our identity was literally mapped to being in our hundreds, not hundreds, but like 101 to 107. So as, a woman, I hit 50 and I believed I was in my mid zone, like literally the middle place, because I'm going to live to 100. And all of a sudden, my sweet mom, we call her Juju Bean, Juju got colon cancer, stage 4. And 4 days after my 50th birthday, she called and said, Hilary, I've got 13 lesions. And she was at my birthday. You never would have even imagined that she was sick. And 1 year later, she passed. But during this time, she was a fighter, really big fighter. And I told you before we started, she was also a volunteer police officer. And it was one of her biggest pride and joy of going in. And, I'm going in with my bros today. And this group, there were quite a few men. So and they all like love my mom. And so she was a huge Diana Ross fan. And when I was growing up, Diana Ross was always playing over and over and over. And those days, it was the vinyl records. Those days, it was the 8-track tape. You name it, the VHS, where you put that big sucker in there and it, plays over and over. So there were, Ain't No Mountain High Enough. There was like all these great songs. Well, my mom had never met Diana Ross. I'd never had an opportunity to go and meet her. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to literally make this happen. And I set an intention and I thought I'm going to have my mom meet this woman and somehow they're going to connect. So I start to reach out. I don't tell my mom I'm doing this. I start to reach out and there happens to be a concert in Las Vegas. I'm like, oh my God, this is so great. So I then start to think, well, how do I even start to do this? So I reach out to everybody I know. And I get like, it's like dot to dot. Everybody, well, you should talk to this person, talk to this. And every single person I talked to, I ended up coming up with, Diana Ross doesn't meet people backstage. She doesn't do that anymore. Like, she does not want to, be face to face with anyone. I'm like, that's not going to work for me. That is not going to work. So fast forward, I have no idea. I don't know the how it's going to happen, but I'm dragging my mom to this Diana Ross. And by the way, she has a cane. I'm dragging her there. At this point, we hadn't gotten any results of the final stuff that came in, but she is lit up. And it ends up that we are, I made sure to get like a row, like at the end of the row. So we were right in the middle. We weren't very close. We were kind of halfway back. But when I got there, I took everything I've ever learned in my sales background. And I knew rapport building. I knew energy work. I knew all these things. And so I started to focus in on Diana Ross. And I started to do, what people call my magic. And I teach these things. But I started to absolutely look at her. When she touched her big hair, I touched my hair. When she touched her face, I touched my face. And I kept doing this. And I kept thinking, you're going to meet my mom. You're going to meet my mom. And I did all these other little like ninja tricks. And then Diana Ross says, I'm going to call a couple people up on stage. This is going to be so amazing. I'm thinking, no, my mom can't get up on stage. She's got a cane. There's no way from where we are. We are way too far back to get her up there. This is not going to happen. So she goes through, she has these two people go up, they dance with her. They get these big, massive hugs. It's awesome. And then she says, okay, then I'm done. This has been so great. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I go right back into my own G zone, my own gift zone, my own great zone. And I focus in on her. And I'm like, no, you're not done. And I realize at that point, I raise my arm. And you know what she does? She raises her arm. And I know now, we are absolutely in rapport. Like there is no doubt. So I literally say, I need you to come down and meet my mom. I don't say it, I think it. So all of a sudden she says, you know what, I'm going to do something that I don't usually do. Or I'm going to come down, I'm going to walk down. And so she starts to do this. And she starts to sing not her own song, but Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive. And I'm like, no way, this is so good. I will survive. Mom's going to live. This is the best thing ever. And she beelines right to my mom. And my mom is like, she is my mom, this gigantic hug. She talks in my mom's ear. She says something. She keeps singing. I mean, this is like the most incredible experience. And then she kind of, walks back up on stage and I'm just like losing my mind. I'm like, oh, and my mom is like, how'd you do it? Oh my God. So it ends up that we leave, we go, we're on such a high for about 2 weeks. And then we end up going to the doctor's office and the doctor kind of delivers the final blow, which is, it's moved now into her bones. It's moved everywhere. And I'm like, what? My intuition said, Diana Ross, I will survive. She sang a song that wasn't even her own to my mom. Like, what the heck? And this was the gauntlet of like, you're done. Like, Jujubee, this is unfortunately, there's nothing more we can do for you. So about 6 months later, I am sleeping and I wake up to I Will Survive, literally in the middle of the night, the song. And I realize that Diana Ross was not singing that to my mom. She was actually singing it to me. She was telling me, because I never dreamed I could survive without my mom. She was literally my rock through a ton of relaunches I haven't even shared with you. I had a near-death experience and crossed over and, it was terrible. So my mom was that person for me. And so it brings me back to this voice, hearing. If we give ourselves a moment to just stop, to just pause, to be able to be comfortable with the silence, it's then that your wise woman will talk to you. And for everyone that has trusted in their intuition and it didn't work out, right? Like mine, maybe it's how you were interpreting what happened that's actually what was wrong. Because your intuition, your wise woman is always right. And she's always saying amazingly nice, beautiful things to you. The reverse is your ego, who's beating the hell out of you. So hopefully that helped a little bit.
Yeah, no, there was so much goodness in there. And I really liked how you were so insistent. Like, you were like, okay, she's going to meet Diana Ross. I don't care. And even though everybody kept telling you, nope, not going to happen, and it seemed like all these doors were being slammed in your face. And so it would have been easy to be like, what's the point of going? It's just not going to happen, So I like that you persevered, because so often we, especially as women, will think like, oh, we got to know, we don't want to, we don't want to bother them, or it's just how it is. But I think your perseverance, I love that. And then also how you said about interpreting. It's so often we're getting our dreams, we're getting all these things that we want, and they're right in front of our face, but we're just not seeing them because it wasn't the way that we envisioned them happening. So I think that's so powerful. So thank you for that.
And so what I'd love to be able to do is I did use a process.
Yeah.
And I didn't get into, but I used a process, the tune-in process, 4 steps, and I consistently went back to that process over and over and over again. And that is why Diana Ross got off that stage and came down and met my mom. So I want to take you through it.
Yeah, let's dig in. I want to hear it.
And every single person out there, this is a process that you can use anytime during the day. You can use it before you go on stage, before you go into a business meeting, before you go into a budgeting meeting, before you look at your financials. You can use it all the time. And the more you use it, it's like a muscle, the better you're going to get at it. All right. And everybody can become a master. That's the best part. Okay. It doesn't have to be like, oh, she's good, but I'm not. No, there's none of that, like, self-sabotage here. Okay. So the tune-in process is this. Albert Einstein said you can't solve a problem at the level it was created. But he also said you can't solve a problem, and in the future, it will be based around energy. That energetically, you have to be at a higher level to really consciously solve the problem. Now, it took me a gazillion years to figure out what the heck that actually meant. And what that means is basically when you have a problem, when you have a challenge, or even when you have an intention, like mine could have been a challenge of getting my mom to meet Diana Ross, or it could be an intention. I'm going to have this happen. This is the outcome. But what we want to make sure we're doing is there's a challenge. So you're at a lower level of energy, and emotions have an actual energy attached to it. They have a vibration attached to it. Everything has a vibration. And so what we want to be able to do when we want things to come to us, when we want answers, when we want specific direction of what should I do, we have to elevate our energy. We have to get to a higher level, our best version of ourselves, our higher self in that 3HQ model. But how do you do that? Like everyone says, oh yeah, you got to be in a more positive state. Well, how do you do it? So the tune-in process gets you there, and it can get you there in less than 2 minutes. So, Marie, step 1 is identify a challenge that you have or an intention. So what challenge, let's just stick with business. What challenge do you have right now in your business?
It would be determining if I want to pivot or not.
Okay, that is awesome, because so many people right now with the world and AI and all these different things, like, is this really where you're supposed to be, or should you be looking at something new, right?
Right.
Awesome. So that's your challenge. So then step 2, that's your challenge. So it's a low level of energy attached to it. We want to up level you. And what we want to do is change your channel. Step 2 is change your channel and tune in. Tune into a song that absolutely lights you up, that when you hear it, your energy automatically goes higher. Okay. So do you have a song that when you're listening it, you're like, whoa, I love this song. I'm so fired up. What would that song be?
Yeah. For me, it would be This Is Me from The Greatest Showman.
Okay. This Is Me from The Greatest Showman. All right. So you can either put it on your phone and start listening to it, or because a lot of times you're going to tune in when there are other people around, you're going to play it in your head. So right now, Marie, I want you to tune into This Is Me. Play and tune into This Is Me by The Greatest Showman, okay? I want you to take it from your head to your toes, but while doing so, if you're listening to it, you're not sitting all stiff, you're moving. You're starting to move your body. You're moving your head. You're moving your feet. You're standing up sometimes. Sometimes I tell people, turn off the video, turn off the Zoom, and let's just embrace this moment. And I say, do it for at least 30 seconds or until you feel like your vibration, like you're tingling, like you're like, yeah, I'm in that zone. Okay. So right now you're tuning in up a bit. This is me. Turn it up and you can close your eyes and have it like literally a wave is going through you. Move your body. And that's step 2. Step 3. Step 3 is now I want you to, and remember, step 1 is in your head. I got this challenge. Step 2 is you're elevating yourself to a higher self. So that's energy. So that's higher self. Now I'm going to take you to the heart. And I want you to really think about what would it look like to you if you absolutely knew exactly what you should be doing. You could visualize emotionally how that would feel. And you can visualize in your head, all right, I'd be maybe doing this. All right. So I want you to think of an image where if you pivoted absolutely to the right thing, you could be sitting at your desk, you're just jamming, you're in your G zone, you're like, yeah, I'm doing this. And here's the thing. There's a color, and there's so much neuroscience that I'm building into it, but we don't have time for me to explain every angle. But I want you to see a color in this image of you jamming, of you're in your G zone, you pivoted, you're like, yes, oh my God. What color really is coming to your mind right now? What color is it?
Orange.
Orange. I want you to intensify the orange, 10x that orange. Now I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and you are going to visualize right now that 10x, that intensified orange. It might be a shirt, it might be something in the background, it might be like an overall hue. You're going to see yourself, you're going to feel it. And I'm going to ask you to open and close your eyes, like as if you are the shutter on a camera. You're going to take an internal selfie of you and that picture. And the way you're going to do it, and the way we're going to anchor this is I'm going to say the word click 3 times. You open and close your eyes, taking that internal picture. You are hazing out what is on the outside because that doesn't matter. Okay. Are you ready? Click, open and close your eyes. Click, open and close your eyes. Click, open and close your eyes as you're taking the final picture. Now you literally have a photo album that you can now go back to. You can pick the favorite picture, put it on the cover of the photo album. You now have that. So now we're going to tune back into This Is Me, tune back into that song. You're seeing that picture. And step 4 is what can you do right now to create the forward momentum, to be actionable, to be taking action like we did with the state change. What could you do right now? Tune back into the song, even turn it up a little bit more. What could that be? What could that be right now that you could do right today in order to get you one step closer to that image of you in your G zone?
Set up a local event.
Set up a local event. Okay, so that needs to happen today. Now that's kind of a big one. So I would even ask you to go back a little bit more because that could be a little overwhelming. I want you to think of what could be that first step to setting up a local event.
just reaching out to the facility or the place to host it?
That's it. Reach out, decide. Here's a couple different opportunity places that could be, and then making sure that you call. Now, the next time when you're going back into this, maybe it's now like, okay, what do I really need to be presenting at that? You tune back in with that same song because now you're pivoting. Is this right? Is this direction? Is all part of that one song and that changing the channel. And we want to keep going back to that throughout the day. Before you do anything that is involved in that event, you're going to be tuning in. Now, here's the thing. For everyone out there, you can do this before your meetings, before anything on your calendar. Put a 2-minute, put on your phone at, 5 minutes of the hour or, whenever it is for you during the day that you're going to tune in. And you may have a few different songs that are going. Like when I'm looking at creatively bringing something out of me that I know I want to have resonate with my audience, I tune in to the same song and it's my creative song. Then I have another one when, I'm kind of like, I want to land the message on a stage. That's another song. Then I've got my big, big wild dream like I had with Diana Ross, and that had one song. So as you get more familiar, and you might have a song of the day, make it easy for you, right? But here's the thing. Go today and do this where step 1, figure out you got a challenge, label it. You got an intention, label it. That's step 1. Step 2, change the channel. Elevate your energy by picking that song and tuning in. Step 3, visualize what it would look like. Emotionally charging it, color charging it, click charging it. And step 4, while you're elevated, here it is, Einstein coming back to you, you now get it. You can't solve a problem at the level it was created. That's when you level yourself up and you say, what can be that action? And that's listening to the wise woman because you know what you need to do, just like you did. I need to get the venue. So that's it.
Yeah.
That's the tune-in process.
I love it. And, I think that there's just not enough, it's not talked about enough about raising your energy and how you have to be intentional about it. If you're not intentional, it's not going to happen. But I think we look at people and we're like, oh, they're just naturally high energy or that's just their personality. It's in their blood, that kind of thing. But we don't realize, wait, we have a lot more control over it. 100%. And recently I went to a Brendan Burchard event. I don't know if you know who that is.
Of course.
Yeah, it was a growth day event. And he really talked about raising your energy. We did like Qigong and we were like tapping our arms and everything. And like, I felt really high energy. And I was like, what? Like
100%.
Yeah.
It's not even like, even time management. Like people are like coming to me and they're like, oh, I have no time. I'm so busy. I'm being busy. It's like, can we just stop that? It has nothing to do with time management. It's energy management. You start to manage your energy efficiently, effectively, you start to get so much more done. And you're doing it at a level that you're gaining more leads, you're gaining more sales, your conversions are going. I mean, it directly impacts everything.
Is there something you could tell us either how this has changed your life or like a client of yours, how it's changed them?
Oh, so great. So I'll give you a client because my life has changed in so much that I literally am living my dream life in all of the areas because I tune in and use 3HQ. But a great example, I had a client come to me and I work with C-suite executives, I work with managers, and I work with entrepreneurs. So it's the same process for everybody, right? And this woman had recently been let go from a C-suite job. And she was really, it was tech. Tech is being hit hard right now. She was told by at least 18 people, there are no jobs. There are no jobs. And so I took her through Tune In, and I am so excited. Again, I have chills on my arms right now. I'm so excited to say that using the Tune In process, and again, there's more to it with 3HQ, she just landed the best job of her life. It was everything that in step 3, she visualized. And again, clarity is everything. And sometimes gaining clarity, you need assistance to really get there, but everything. And so she texted me on Sunday. It was more than she like even wanted, but we put out there that, hey, it's this or better, right? It's this or better. It's not getting up on stage with Diana Ross because mom couldn't do that. It's getting Diana Ross to come down to her, right? This or better. And so that is just one of like another woman had really had struggles. And I take women from 5 figures to 6 figures to 7 to literally selling your company for 250 million. Any of these, because it's all the same process. It's working for you. And this woman came and went to actually one of my free challenges and then joined our course. And within, I believe it was like 21 days, had gone from literally struggle, I call it the struggle bus, being that like up and down, up and down, up and down revenue, that she initially, her best month she had ever had was 5K. And she had her first 30K month.
Nice.
And this is what it's about. And 30K, you know, might be like, oh my God, mind blowing, or maybe it's 300K, right? It's one and the same. It's when you really understand. And again, I talked to you about, I grew up in corporate. I grew up in like tech. It was so left brain, logical, steps, procedures, strategies. That's all well and good. And I have all that. In my 6-month fired up entrepreneur course, we go into everything. We use AI in every single area of the business. But it's the other areas that are really going to take you up to that next level and keep you there. That's where it's like, Hilary, I finally have gotten off the relaunch roller coaster. I can't get you away from all relaunches because they're going to happen, but I can definitely give you a way to get through them gracefully.
So good. So Hilary, will you tell us, how can we get in touch with you? How can we find your book, all the things?
Oh, so good. Okay, first off, everyone, go to our website and take the 3HQ quiz. And the website is TheRelaunch.com. TheRelaunch.com. Scroll down a bit. There's the quiz. You get the 3HQ. You'll see where you are. Are you like predominantly your head, heart, higher self? And then it gives you a couple little free videos from me that, you know, kind of get you thinking about these things. And then next, after you're done, sign up for the free challenge. Be one of my testimonials. Be one of the women that I, you know, or men that I'm like, you know, this is so good. You know, this is what it does for you. And then to get the book, you can go to Amazon and it's Relaunch, Spark Your Heart to Ignite Your Life. And please, if you're over on Instagram, DM me. And here's the thing. If you're starting to use TuneIn, just put in the DM, I'm tuned in. I'm tuned in. And you will get a note back from me. And I just want to, you know, again, it's peak performance habits. And this is by far, after working with, you know, I've done people that have done Ironman numerous times, CEOs, execs, people in entertainment, you name it. And you asked me at the beginning, ordinary or badass. This is a badass habit.
Nice. And remind me the website to sign up for
it's www.therelaunch.com.
Okay, perfect.
Therelaunch.com.
So I'll throw that in the show notes. And let's end with a tip to encourage women who are in the arena fighting for the life that they want.
Ooh, okay. The tip is tune in. Stop tuning out. Tuning out isn't going to get you to wear that gold belt, the winner's belt. It's not going to get you to be the Wonder Woman of your life. Tuning in. Start today. Build up. Dear friend of mine, John Assaraf, who was in The Secret, he says inner size as much as you exercise. I say start to inner size today. Build up the muscle. And you will be able to send me a DM at the ReLaunch Co. Instagram, at the ReLaunch Co. And you're going to say, you know what, Hilary? I did the tune-in process. This is what happened. Guarantee. I haven't had one person not be able to have something happen. So I challenge everyone out there. Let's do this.
Nice. Thank you so much, Hilary. You've been a total badass, and I've enjoyed hearing your story.
Rhea, it's been so much fun. Thanks for having me.
And with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass and get the chance to be on a future spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.